Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome once again to another Wednesday night right here at the Sportz Krib. As you can see, we have to get our little commercial stuff out of the way here first. Looking right there on the bottom of the screen. If you're on YouTube, you can subscribe and donate. Our Cash App, JE King, $ JE King 3, and all proceeds go to the Sportz Krib to donate our different prizes and stuff in case you're in our Sportz Krib League. I see a lot of the guys are down here. I see Mr. Bill Carroll is in the building tonight. Hello, Bill.
Hello there.
And there's Dave. How you doing tonight, Dave?
Hey, James. Hey, Bill.
Don, how you doing tonight, Mr.
Don. Cooking. I'm here.
Representing those number one Longhorns. I see you there, Don. Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, hey guys, let's get right to it here. I see. Dave, do we have a Sue's Corner tonight?
We do indeed. So from Sue, she says, I may have a slight bias, but I think Sidney Crosby is not only one of the best hockey players in history, but also a unicorn in today's modern sports and the world in general, with his lack of selfishness and greed. Sidney agreed to a new contract that will most likely take him to the end of his career with the Pittsburgh Penguins at the same $8.7 million salary that he's had since 2009. Estimates are that he has overall probably left $43 million on the table over the years. I know people bring up his superstitions that he wants to stay at 8.7 million since he's number 87, but it's not just the salary, it's the terms. Only a 2-year extension. Crosby could have asked for more years. The Penguins would give the captain as many years as he wanted. He opted against it because he didn't want to hamstring the team. Although he seems never to age, he is getting older and could just slow down or get more injuries. Crosby knows that and doesn't want to negatively impact the Penguins if it happens soon. He's been the focus of attention most of his life, a professional sports figure since 17, but you never hear or see any negative press. No drunken brawls, no drugs, no abuse of women, no reckless behavior. He quietly lives his life and shows it all in the hockey arena. I used to work with rabid Washington Caps fans who hate Crosby with a passion because he's a whiner. Okay, that's the worst you can say about him? He's the team captain, so if he wants to complain to the refs, that's part of his job. He understands what his position is in the world. He's just a hockey player, albeit one of the greatest players to play the game. But before all that, he's a member of society. He appreciates the opportunities he's been given, and he's loyal to those who have loved him from the beginning. Kudos to his parents, Mario Lemieux, and every other adult that influenced Sidney's life. You have raised a fine human. Pittsburgh is lucky to have him. And that is Sue's Corner.
All right. Yeah. Sidney, even though I don't follow hockey that much, I do remember when he came to the Penguins and
The kid.
how Mario kind of took him under his wing, and that was it.
Yeah, he actually went in and lived with Mario for a while when he first got to Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Yeah, that was when the Penguins played hockey downtown. Yeah, I remember that well. Yeah, okay, guys. A little bit of baseball here, not much. It's getting kind of time for the playoffs to get around us here. We've been talking about Ohtani getting his 50-50. He's getting a little closer. I think he's at 48 right now as we speak. Any comments?
I think he's going to do it. That's what I've said all along. I think I predicted 54 home runs and 51 stolen bases was my prediction.
Yep. That's what you predicted.
Was it 51? Okay, I thought it was 52.
Or maybe 52.
Okay. Don, do you think he's going to make it?
Yeah, I do. Deep down, I think I just have the feeling that he's going to continue and make it happen. So yeah, why not? I'm an optimist.
All right. Well, since you're such an optimist, Don, will the Royals go from 100 losses to the World Series?
I don't know about that World Series thing, but they've had a remarkable turnaround. So I would love to see them in the series. I've always been kind of a little closet Royals fan. I got my Texas teams, but I always go for the San Diego Padres, and I always went for the Kansas City Royals. So yeah, it would hurt my feelings to see them in the World Series. That'd be nice, but hey, tell you what, if they do that, they should make a movie. Inspiring underdog movies like Rudy.
What do you think, Bill?
Well, I just missed the turnaround of the amazing Mets, right? By the time I was watching baseball, I had missed their first. I saw the second time they made the World Series, but I missed the first time. I mean, I was alive, but I wasn't really watching baseball. And if this would be, because it happened sort of in a more compressed time frame, I guess even more surprising and amazing. And of course, the coolest part of it is their payroll. While it's not a tiny payroll, I think they're not the lowest payroll. They're not the lowest payroll in MLB. I think they're in the bottom 7 or 8. So it still is kind of cool on that regard. I don't know about the World Series. I don't know if they'll make it quite that far, but I do think that they will win at least one playoff series.
Dave, what do you think?
Yeah, I think. One, they're 5 games behind the Guardians, so they're not going to finish in first. They got to make up 5 games with only 11 left, and that's right. But they could do something in the playoffs. I'm just not so sure that they're going to be in the World Series. But if they were, what a turnaround! That's right. Huge. So yeah. There's no baseball in Pittsburgh being played that much this year. But that would be a great story. And it shows that, hey, it can be done. You can turn around a team quick, even if they don't make the World Series.
Yeah. Bill, who's going to make the wild card, the Mets or the Braves?
Well, since I am a Mets fan, I'm going to say the Braves. That seems to be how it works. So I don't think we talk enough about the Braves organization. And I'm not trying to rehash the old Reinsdorf organizations win championships retort, but they are a consistently good organization to almost the point of boredom, right? They've had 1 or 2 down years sort of sprinkled in the past 30 something, but they generally are a playoff team. Probably, I'm going to just guess, probably 24 out of the last 33 years, probably something like that. They've made the playoffs. Probably something like that. I don't think I'm off by much. Some crazy number like that. They are just relentlessly, boringly competitive year after year after year. And once again, they have a good sized payroll, but it's not the top. It's not, at the top. It's not in the rarefied air of some of the franchises that are throwing around, silly numbers.
Like the Mets, for instance.
Yeah. Right. Thanks for bringing that point home. Yes, like the Mets, the Dodgers, the Mets, there's a few teams out there just throwing out, just silly amounts of money. And
My
while
team, the
they are
Yankees don't. My team, the Yankees don't do bad about throwing over.
right, they spend a little cash up there too. And you know, I just, like I said, I sort of marvel at them because they've had lots of different. The names and faces change, but you look up and they've won 93 games again or whatever. Oh yeah, there they are. It's one of those, but death, taxes, and the Braves being good.
Don, who do you think makes the wild card, the Mets or the Braves?
Oh man, my gut tells me the Braves. Just I don't know, just because I guess I like Atlanta, but I'd say Atlanta.
Dave, you making it unanimous or what?
Well, I tell you right now, the Mets are 2 games ahead of the Braves, and they have 11 more games to play. But the Mets have a tougher. They're playing tougher teams. They're playing.
Yeah.
They have another game against the Nationals, which should be winnable. But then they have 4 games with the Phillies, who are in first place. Then they have 3 games with the Braves, and that's probably what's going to decide it right there. And then they finish with the Brewers, who are in first place in their division. While the Braves, they play the Marlins twice. They play the Mets, they play the Reds twice, which should be winnable games. They play the Marlins 3 times, tough. Then they play the Mets 3 times. Again, that's that key set of games right there at the end. And then they finish against the Royals. So with a slightly easier schedule, I'm going to say that the Braves overtake the Mets by half a game. The Mets finished 87-75. The Braves finished 88-74, a half game ahead of them and into the wild card. How about that?
All right, we got a Bill. We got a Bill-like prediction here. Okay. How many walks we gonna have in the game? No.
Well, but still, I think what it comes down to is who they have to play.
Right.
And then the fact that they play each other 3 times.
Yeah.
That could be, if one or the other sweeps that series, that could be huge.
And the Braves could knock the Royals out also. They do finish with the Royals, right? Did you mention that?
They have 3 games. The Braves have 3 games with the Royals. Yep.
That's how they close out the season, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's something to look at too. They could knock each other out, or however, that's going to be a great scenario at the finish of the season. 3 games against the Mets and then 3 games against the Royals.
Because the Tigers are only a game and a half out.
Yeah. See, too bad Demetrius isn't here tonight.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's talk a little college football here. Let's see. I got yours down with no problem. We got Archie. Longhorns are now number 1. Don, quarterback down. And the backup quarterback is in the Heisman conversation. What's going on down there in Texas, Don?
Yeah, so I was at the game last week, and Quinn Ewers got hurt. Yeah, he had a little stomach strain, abdominal strain, and he went out for a play. I lost y'all. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
You hear us?
You're good.
We can hear you, Don.
You may proceed, Don, if you can hear us, which is probably the big
Earth to Major Don.
Well, I think what he was going to say is that Arch Manning filled in extremely well. And while Heisman talk may be a little premature, I'd like to remind people that his dad Cooper was a wide receiver. He's the most.
Don, can you hear us?
He's off.
No, James. Yeah.
Okay.
He's the most athletic of the man. Oh. Well, we upgraded.
How's it going, guys?
So, that you have to go back to his grandfather, Archie, who also was a terrific athlete. But Arch is the most athletic since Archie. And while there was never a full-on quarterback controversy, there were some Longhorn fans who wanted to sort of jump past. Oh, here, I think Don's coming back.
Don, can you hear us, Don?
Yeah, can you hear me? I got
we never lost you, Don.
Yeah, we can
Loading
hear
thing
you.
going on.
Keep on
Okay, we're
talking.
good.
Yeah, we never lost you. Go ahead.
I was like, damn, what the hell? So anyway, so Archie, he throws the touchdown pass to Andre Moore. Defense hold. They punt. They get the ball about the 45-yard line. Next thing you know, Archie's does his own read, keeps it, goes 67 all the way. So he touches the ball twice, first two times in the touchdown, two touchdowns. He got clocked at 20.7 miles per hour, which is faster than Tyreek Hill. Believe that or not. That was a fast as someone who's like 5'10", 5'11" for some reason. So yeah, it was a great game. I don't think there's not a controversy. The national media is trying to stir that up, but Arch has a level head. He knows, hey, I'm just here as a Band-Aid till quick. Nation's happy.
Dave, what did you think about that particular game and the fact that all of a sudden we have Arch Manning in the Heisman conversation, and he's
what a great problem to have. I mean, you lose your quarterback, and then here comes a guy, not missing a beat. I just wonder what it does to Texas's plans, because I thought that what they were planning to do, with Ewers was that I thought he was going to go into the draft. I don't know if it would be this year's draft, in the spring of 2025.
Yeah.
And I would think that they would want to give him an opportunity so that he could do that. And in order to do that, he has to play. And as long as Manning is willing to accept that, well, why not? But I think it all depends on this abdominal strain that he has. How bad is it? I can just imagine passing the ball. That's got to affect his throwing motion. But if he's able to play, I would go back to Ewers, because that you got Manning to step in next year, and I thought that's what their plan was all along. But for me, my reaction is, what a wonderful problem to have.
I hear you. Bill, Georgia survives the scare down in Kentucky. The final is 13-12. As a result, they fall to number 2. Thoughts?
Well, this Georgia team is not as good as last year's Georgia team, but that's not exactly an insult. I mean, they're just not as good. I should put that caveat in here. They are playing. They lost. At one point, I actually written down the number of snaps they lost, particularly on defense. It's a huge number. It's in the tens of thousands of snaps played that they lost. It literally is. Like, it's 10,060 something, I think. But it's a ludicrously large. It's a funny number to look at. Look at how many defensive snaps they lost. They lost a bunch of guys who were 4th and 5th year guys, and so they've got a lot of underclassmen in there. They've got a couple of good seniors, but the bulk of their stars on defense are sophomores, redshirt sophomores, and juniors. So they're figuring some things out. Their offense, to me, is if they end up not winning another national championship, it'll probably be because of the offense. And I know at one point people were calling Carson Beck. People love calling lots of people the odds-on favorite in the Heisman. Quinn Ewers, Carson Beck. Someone even mentioned, was it Jackson Dart? But there's lots of, as the season begins, who isn't in the running for the Heisman? But Quinn Ewers was only one of the people mentioned as a favorite, but the other one, of course, is Carson Beck. And I've always thought that was the person that Carson Beck most reminds me of is a more sort of exciting and complete version of Mason Rudolph, both in terms of his build, his passing motion, and things like that. So I didn't see like star quality when I looked at Carson Beck. At his best, he can make, he's what I call a game manager plus. He can make the deep throws. He has a big arm. But generally speaking, he likes to work the middle of the field and fire off those quick outs and slants, and then the occasional screen, and then they pound you to death in the run game. Now they're pounding you not quite to death so much in the run game. They can still land body blows, but they're not pounding you to death. So now the not problems, but the imperfections is probably a way to put it, they have in their passing game are being exposed. And I mean, I'm not saying anything everyone here doesn't know. You don't just replace Brock Bowers, right? That's not something you can do. You don't, no matter how good your program is, you do not have another Brock Bowers, right? Nobody does. There's only one of those. So that was that great bailout thing they had before, right? He was like, everything's falling apart. Oh, where's Brock Bowers, right? Where's number 18? So you don't have the quote unquote security blanket cliche that people like to use. He's figuring it out. They're all figuring it out, but particularly, who's going to be my guy? That's being figured out. The running game, I think, at some point will find its footing. But once again, on the offensive line, they lost. I mean, not as many. It wasn't in the tens of thousands of snaps. They lost a good number, probably a couple hundred snaps collectively off the offensive line. So I think this is more about Kentucky's defense being better than people realized than it is about Georgia. Once again, as people keep reminding us, there's no preseason in college football. So they're going to get better on both sides of the ball, but I don't think they're ever going to be great on offense. I think their offense is going to be slightly better. And of course, they're playing really good defense. So they'll look better. They'll look much better against bad defenses, but they're not going to be a juggernaut on offense at any point. I think the defense will continue to improve, but they can be beaten, right? If they were to play,
I only got you for 45 minutes. I don't want it on.
I know. Okay. So what I'll say is, I think they pick up a loss at some point this year. That's all that was to say. I don't think they go undefeated.
Bo, what did you think about this game? Georgia and Kentucky.
Yeah, no, it showed us something about Kentucky, right?
Yep.
Like that program's been coming along, and Georgia looks like they've fallen off a little bit. So not to say that a win isn't a win, but in college football, it isn't always, right? Like if you're supposed to beat the brakes off somebody and it's a narrow victory, you still fall in the standings. It's the only place that you can win and still drop. So yeah, I mean, I think it showed us kind of a lot about Kentucky, about where they're headed, and raised some concerns about Georgia.
Bill, the quarterback, Jalen Milroe, accounted for 5 TDs as number 4 Bama rolled over Wisconsin 42-10. What was your scouting report on the young quarterback from Alabama, Bill?
Yes, so Milroe has played sparingly as far back as I think 3 seasons ago, and played obviously much more than the last season. Things you like about it? Well, I mean, people tried to compare him to Jalen Hurts, but I was like, pump the brakes a little bit on that. He's still a little behind where Hurts was in terms of use of his eyes and deep ball accuracy. He has a strong arm, He may even have a stronger arm than Hurts, but he lacks the touch, right? He's still ability to throw everything a little too close to the same. Sometimes you get a little arrow route with the same amount of RPMs, the same amount of force on it as a Bang 8. Like, hey, you don't need to throw everything that hard. he's got to learn some things about touch and anticipation and about taking safeties away from the ball instead of to the ball with his eyes. But the skill set's all there. I mean, the talent is all there. He's a legitimate 228 or something. I mean, he's put together. That's why the Hurts comparison is because of his weight room exploits. He's another guy who I think is in the 400 plus club on bench and the 550 club on squat. So there's a short list of quarterbacks that belong to that club, right? And he's one of the members. So he is an absolute, freak show athlete. He really does have to continue to improve. He has improved each season. You've seen him improve. In fact, they didn't let him throw the ball at first at all, right? He was just, coming in on the short yardage in packages, special packages initially. And so, Bryce Young was the guy, and he was coming in like Tebow back when Chris Leak was the guy at Florida, coming in those short yardage goal line situations and start slamming it up in there. And he's grown. That's how Dak got his start, also at Mississippi State back when Tyler Russell was the starter. But now, like Dak, he has an opportunity to continue to develop. I don't know if he gets to that point, quite to the extent that Dak improved, but he has a chance. Okay. I don't know if he works with a private coach in the offseason, but I do see signs of improvement. But for me, he's got to learn, once again, to stop staring certain things down. He has a strong arm, so he gets away with it sometimes, but they're going to, as the season goes on and they play better and better defenses, they're going to get him. He's going to get got on that. And yep.
Bo, what's happening with the Pac-2 Plus?
Man, who knows?
Well said.
That I don't really know what their direction.
Good answer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure they know what their plan is. It's a wait and see situation. I mean, they want to do some blending. They've proposed a ton of different ways to do it. I don't know that any of it really makes sense. I mean, they'd be better off to just have Washington State, Oregon State join the Pac-10 or Big Ten, make it an even 20 schools, retain some of the rivalries, since that's where their other rival schools are already. That being said, Wazoo's got a pretty good shot to win the Pac-12.
50-50 chance.
That's right.
Let's see. Aaron Donald is among the 7 on Pitt's AD advisory committee. Pitt starts the season 3-0 after their latest victory over West Virginia. Last time we talked to Dave, he was kind of concerned about the game before West Virginia, but hey, we knocked both of them off, Cincinnati and West Virginia. Dave, what's going on in Pitt?
Yeah, well, before I get there, we were talking about the athletic director situation there, and Sue was back up in Beaver County last week, and she got some gouge from her friend Beth, who's another sports. There's a lot of women love sports in Western Pennsylvania. But apparently what the story is that Heather Lyke, she's the athletic director right. That was just let go. Her contract wasn't renewed. Well, she's very well regarded. And apparently she's been interviewing for jobs over the last year. And I guess, from the school in Ohio, and there's other people that want to hire her. So she's going to be okay. But apparently what one of the big dings on her was that she had a pet project that was going to be a $30 to $50 million project to build a facility for non-revenue sports. But the problem is she only raised about $8 million. So that kind of fell flat on its face. And Joan Gable, who's the chancellor there, she had come over from Minnesota. So maybe Anthony knows of her. But she's been at Pitt, for the last year. She wants to move in her own direction. This committee that Aaron Donald is on, I think that they're helping advise on the selection of the AD, but they're actually outsourcing to a third party to actually do the screening and the interviews and all that kind of job stuff. But this advisory committee is going to be helping Joan Gable and the acting athletic director to kind of move the program forward. Now, as far as Pitt, hey, WVU, first of all, they've shown a lot of resiliency as a team. They made a big comeback against Cincinnati, and then they had a back and forth game with WVU, and they didn't wilt. And Eli Holstein, he's showing that maybe he's the real deal as the quarterback. Now they're playing Youngstown State next. Okay, this is a lot of colleges. They're using September almost like a preseason, like a warm up. But they should. Youngstown State should not give Pitt the trouble that WVU or Cincinnati did. The guys I'd like to keep an eye on will be two wide receivers, Kanata Mumpfield and Kenny Johnson. Both of them are averaging over 15 yards a catch. So I think that those are a couple guys to keep an eye on, good targets for Holstein. And then, really Pitt's first big test will probably be October 5th when they start their ACC portion of their schedule, and then they'll be playing North Carolina. And, now we'll see what kind of a team that Pitt has brought to the table.
Didn't Des set a school record? Des Reed with the 100-100 game?
I don't know. I don't know.
We that's something we can check out. But our last college thing here, and this is not. I didn't say he'd win it. I didn't say anything like that. But I do think that when you look at Travis Hunter's performance last year, he came on the scene, and people talked about how good he was, but he's carrying on that same performance this year. Bo, does he belong in the Heisman conversation?
In the conversation, sure. Now it's been a little while since someone other than a quarterback has been able to make this thing happen. So only one other defensive player, right? In modern era anyway, right? Everybody played two ways forever ago. But and what that was Woodson, if I remember right. So yep. I'm going to go with the odds are low. But in the conversation, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe he deserves to sit down, in New York. And that's what I'm thinking. Like I said, and as you mentioned, both the odds of a defensive player making it are very slim. But he does play both ways. Don, what's your thoughts? Should he be in the conversation?
Yeah, most definitely. So, yes, I think so. So going back to the old days, James, what I'm talking about, the old days, the Heisman was given to the best player, right? In the last several years, it's always gone to the best quarterback on the undefeated team. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. Case in point, Sam Bradford, Matt Leonard, those types. So Travis Hunter, Colorado might break 500 this year. I don't know. They're a touch and go team. They got talent, but they don't seem to get it all together. But Travis Hunter is I think he is the best college football player in America right now. He can play defense. He can play offense. He's got speed. He will be taken in the first round in the NFL. Y'all remember back in the day, back in the 80s, a guy named Gordy Lockbaum?
Gordy Lockbaum from
that was in I think Gordy Lockbaum
He finished sixth in the Heisman Trophy voting in '88. Gordy Lockbaum from Holy Cross.
Yes, and Gordon Lockman had a lot of publicity for being a two-way player. Travis Hunter is 100 times the athlete and player that Gordy Lockman was. So I think he belongs in conversation. I don't think he's going to win it, but he has my vote. If he continues doing what he's doing, he has my vote. I don't care if Colorado has a losing record. That the guy is a player. That's how it is.
Bill, do you agree with Don?
Well, except for one thing. So, who does care if Colorado has a losing record? The Heisman Trophy voters.
Yeah.
So, the last time that someone finished, in fact, won the Heisman with a losing record was a 2-8 team at Notre Dame. Notre Dame. And that Paul Hornung, the year Paul Hornung won, they went 2-8 at Notre Dame. So they were terrible. But Hornung, once again, versatility, right? He was a guy that threw the ball, caught the ball, ran the ball, played a little defense, was the team's primary punter and place kicker. So he sort of overawed them with his versatility. I think that the thing works. Two things work against Mr. Hunter. One, as was pointed out, I don't think the team's going to finish the season. Maybe not. If they do even get to 500, it won't be much above 500. And the other thing that works against him is that unlike Charles Woodson, who was at, what I call maximum prestige institution, like there's not another level of school above Michigan, right? There's not a school you can look up to and say, oh, well, like if you're a coach, you can't get a better job than coaching at Michigan, right? So Colorado is on the rise. The program's improving, but they don't have the kind of perception. So those two things work against them, that the team's not going to end up with a great record. And no matter what he does, I mean, Rashaan Salam, of course, did manage to win it. And I think Whizzer White finished second or third in the voting in 38, I think it was. And that's the list for Colorado players who finished in the top 6 or 7, who at least got invited. So they don't have a really established record of putting a lot of people there. He'll win lots of awards. He'll win probably the Ronnie Lott Impact. He'll probably win. He has a shot at, the Bednarik or Nagurski. I mean, he'll win some things. He'll get some stuff. But I think you'd have to give me some very impressive odds for me to plunk down some money on that bet.
What about you, Dave? What do you think? Should he be in the conversation?
Well, he definitely should be in the conversation. I think most people would agree in the conversation. I think, and one is the Big 12 named him the Defensive Player of the Week, that's a plus. Plus, he has like 30 receptions, 342 yards, and 5 touchdowns. If he keeps that up, and he gets like a couple offensive players of the week, defensive players of the week, but more importantly, when he plays ranked teams, like they have Kansas State in a few weeks, who's I think ranked like 12 or 13. Well, if he puts on those types of performances in either close games or even upsets of ranked teams, then all of a sudden his stock goes up. But that said, the problem is, and I know that players used to play, both ways. It actually used to be a rule that you had to play 2 ways at one point. But the problem is it doubles his exposure to injury. He's playing twice as many snaps. And so there's that many more opportunities for him to take an injury. And if he gets hurt, well, then any chance that he has goes out the window. But I think it's a great story. I hope that he continues to be successful.
That's a good thing you pointed out, David. If you shouldn't have given twice as many chances of winning it, but that's all. It's a different conversation. Okay, so moving right along, NFL. Dave, for the want of a catch, the Eagles fall to the Falcons on Monday night in a thriller. Falcons quarterback Kirk Cousins moves the team down the field to score their only fourth quarter score. Dave, for want of a secondary, talking about them Eagles again. That was what we were all talking about. Was that secondary going to improve? Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I'm looking at Atlanta, and I'm almost thinking that maybe they used week one as their final preseason game to kind of get their act together. And, one of the things that I'd mentioned before is that Kirk Cousins did not play in the preseason. And then this guy from the Atlanta Constitution Journal had said that they weren't even playing, no tackling, no live practices during training camp.
Right.
And but now they played a very good game, and the guy that I would circle around is Bijan Robinson, who gained 97 yards. And if you have him pounding down the field, well, then that's sucking in that secondary. And now Kirk Cousins, who was playing a lot more behind center, for whatever reasons, he was playing a lot of pistol formation against Pittsburgh. Well, now he was lined up against the center. Well, you're bringing the secondary in to try to manage Bijan Robinson, opens things up. So I think that the Eagles' defense might be a concern. Let's see what goes on with their defense as the season goes on. But Atlanta, especially in the division that they're in, maybe they're better than some people thought.
Now, let's bring a quarterback in here. I mean, a cornerback in here to talk about this. Bo, was it the secondary's fault or what?
So it was. I blame this on coaching a fair amount. Actually, okay. There were a lot of missteps in this game. Right, one, not taking points early. Right, you were set up for a field goal. You're 4th and 4. Right. So that's not exactly a gimme of a pickup. Right. And I don't fault him too much on it. Right. Like if you make it, you look like a genius. If you miss it, then, it happens. My biggest concern with this was they move into prevent defense, which as a former player, as a fan, I hate prevent defense. It prevents you from winning. Like it is the worst kind of defense. Yep. And then you're going to give a guy like Kirk Cousins a rhythm to fall into, which, when you think of Kirk Cousins, even though you don't necessarily think of lots of winning records, you know what he does always lead almost every year? He's in the top 5 of yards gained every year, right? Because he's a very accurate passer. So if you're just going to give him the field, yeah, he's going to march right down. So a lot of people will blame Saquon for that last, he didn't catch it, but that game was lost before then.
Bill.
Oh, yeah.
I will, as some of you may know, my beautiful lady friend is a big-time Eagles fan, and she was in agony much of that game. She had some problems, first of all, with the interior of the Eagles' defense. Obviously, the days of having Fletcher Cox in their wrecking shop are over, and there's been a lot made of the Georgia-Florida line, or whatever you want to call it, the Georgia line, I guess, really. Though those guys are big, and in one case, huge, they aren't always in the right place or turned in the right direction at the right time. So that was her first concern, right? Bijan Robinson got a lot of chunk yards in the run game. So this isn't quite Sue's corner. It's more like Carrie's cries. So some of the things that bothered her, she thought they should have used more quick game, get the ball out of Jalen's hands more quickly, and more designed runs for Jalen as well. Though he created some things with his feet, she wondered why they didn't just design some early runs, which would then have opened some things up in the passing game. And then, yes, she's still very much unhappy about the eschewing the field goal early on. Though she generally admires coaching aggressiveness, she thought that in that location, at that point, and at that juncture of the game, it just made sense to get that early lead. But yeah, I mean, to put it all on Saquon or put it all on even the secondary actually played fairly well most of the game. But as was just pointed out by our friend Bo, that's the secondary doesn't get to make their own coverage calls. That's not how it works. At least most teams, coaches make those calls. And if players decide to ignore them, usually there's words that are said if you decide you're not going to play the coverage that was called. So my guess is this is the coverage that was called, and they played it. I'm sure they grumbled about it because that's what players do when they – football is a game that usually rewards aggressiveness. So when all of a sudden your aggressiveness is blunted as a competitor, as an athlete, as a player, a part of you feels a little bit of shame almost, right? It's like, you don't trust me? You don't think I can do this? Like, I've done it all game.
Exactly.
We've basically denied these guys deep opportunities in the passing game the whole game. Why now do you take it away from us? So yes, so she personally does not play in the secondary. I to some extent agree with her.
Okay.
Well, and why wouldn't you pass rush a guy that's just back from an Achilles? Like, you just gave him all day.
No way. Yeah. So Bill, do you have to go now?
I can probably squeeze out a few more minutes.
Okay. Then we'll take it down to Don. I think. What did you think about this Monday Night Football?
Okay, so Bo kind of stole my thunder. You're talking about Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, guys, who's old as Caca. Okay, you know what Caca
He's not
is
as
in
old.
Spanish?
He's not as old as ayahuasca.
Nope.
Yeah, but he's old. He's old like most things who have Achilles. Put pressure on him.
Yep.
Put pressure on him. We've seen him under pressure. He doesn't complete many passes when someone's in his face. So
He does
yeah,
not
bring a linebacker, do a little twist, a twist, a stunt, exchange stunt. But again, more Spanish. That defense was pendejo, muy pendejo. Y'all know Spanish? Y'all speak Spanish up there?
Oh, yeah.
We know Medeo.
Exactly. Not a lot of it, but that part of it.
Don, the Chargers opened up a can of whoop ass on the Panthers, 26-3. J.K. Dobbins is averaging 133 yards per game, and the Chargers open up the season 2-0. Don, is this the Chargers? Is this the season for the Chargers to break through?
Well, after 2 weeks, sure. But yeah, I like what Dobbins is doing. They seem to establish that run. It's a long season. Hopefully, he stays healthy. But yeah, Chargers, they'll keep competitive, and they keep scoring touchdowns, and Dicker the kicker will keep hitting extra points and field goals. So it's all good.
Bill, what do you think about the Chargers this year?
Yeah, well, this is one of those moments where I get to feel a little bit smart. There's always a certain number of teams that go from, not being a playoff team to being in the playoffs. And 3 of the teams I said that were not in the playoffs last year that would be in the playoffs this year were Washington. We'll see how that goes. The Chargers and the Saints. So I think that thus far, at least, the Saints and Chargers are looking about like what I expected. The Chargers have had a talented roster. Their issue, and I'm not going to pile on Brandon. No, I am. I'm going to pile on Brandon Staley some more.
Yes.
It is clear to anyone that watched that there's a bunch of people I can name that they just win 2 or 3 more games just automatically by a coach who does less. He just does less, right? I'll quote Earl Weaver, right? As a manager, you will very rarely win a game for your team, but you sure as hell can lose some. And Brandon Staley each season would cost his team 2 or 3 games per year. If you replace him with almost anybody, if you replace him with Eric Bieniemy, if you replace him with Leslie Frazier, I mean, it doesn't take someone great. Think of someone who thinks they'd be dead on average. They would have had a couple more wins.
They would have been in the playoffs because they wouldn't have called timeout.
Correct. Now they replace him with somebody who's really good, right? Whatever else you want to say about his khakis and his drinking whole milk and, basically being like the sitcom Neighbor from a CBS comedy. Despite all of those things, he is a really good football coach. For those who had somehow, like, I don't see how you could not know this, but if somehow word had not reached you that the Harbaughs coach football, like it's the family business for a few generations now, this is what they do. This is their thing. And how do they do it? Right? Build along the trenches, run the ball, allow your quarterback to get deep shots off play action, play good special teams, wash, rinse, repeat. That's the Harbaughs, which pick a Harbaugh, whether it be Jack, whether it be John, whether it be Jim. They coach football pretty much exactly the same way, and they win.
Dave, what's your thoughts?
Just to build on what Bill was saying is Jim Harbaugh. He's making them believers. The Chargers were in the playoffs 2 seasons ago.
Yep.
So it's not as if they don't have some talent there. And you need a coach, and they got a coach. And, talking about his brother, he has 2 of his brother's former running backs, J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. And they ran, I think that the quarterback only threw like 20 passes. They ran 44 times.
Yep.
And yeah, that's what they're going to do. And I think they've done it. Unfortunately, the Panthers, that's not a good test. They're going to be playing Pittsburgh next week. I just hope.
That's a good test. Yeah.
I hope that Pittsburgh doesn't do what they did in their home opener last year. But
the Chargers are going to be playing the Pittsburgh, not the Panthers.
Yeah. I meant the Chargers. As far as the Panthers, I mean, they're just pathetic. And what I was saying about the Panthers is they played a pathetic team, and their test is going to come next week in Pittsburgh. And I'm a little bit nervous about that, and now the Panthers, they got a team, they benched their quarterback, and then they're grabbing a rusty red rifle to come out to throw passes. So
Scott Farkas.
Yeah. Bo.
Yeah, it's funny. I was on a show earlier today, and they called him the Rusty Musket. I was like, that is amazing. Yeah, so I mean, I'm with you guys. Like, I like what I'm seeing out of the Chargers, but let's be honest, they beat the Panthers and the Raiders, so who cares? As soon as we see them play some teams that can actually win games, then I'll take a little more notice. But I mean, they are headed up by a Harbaugh that we've seen in the NFL win before, right? Like, they were in a Super Bowl when he was with the Niners. So, I mean, all he does everywhere he goes is win. So I don't expect anything less from that. On the Panthers end, I'm not convinced they could beat a high school. So I don't know how much, you put into a win from anybody over the Panthers.
Well, Bo, since you were throwing the shade on him here, I'm going to skip something and go with the next question. With an impressive any given Sunday performance, the Raiders beat the Ratbirds.
Yep. They sure did.
Okay, Raiders quarterback Gardner Minshew leads his team to victory with 3 fourth quarter scoring drives. Are the Raiders better than we thought they were, Bo?
No, I mean, there's a couple of things here. One, Minshew is that version of Ryan Fitzpatrick, right? Like, he's the new addition to that. So he'll randomly come out and win some games for you. Like, he is that guy. At the same time, you watched a Ravens team just take their foot off the gas altogether. Because, I mean, they had a lead against the Raiders. I mean, they had that game fairly well handled. There was a lot of coaching stuff in that game that seemed uncharacteristic of what a Harbaugh would do, except for the fact that they decided they just didn't want to use Derrick Henry. And it's something we saw them do in week 1 and something we saw them get away from in the postseason last year. They had 6 called runs to a running back in that postseason loss. If you go into week 1, Derrick Henry had 9 runs. You go into week 2, he has 14. In the first drive, was half of those carries where they scored. So, I mean, like it makes absolutely no sense that one of the best running teams in the league just forgets that they have a mountain of a human named Derrick Henry on the roster. But yet we watched it. 14 carries. Made no sense.
Good evening, Mr. Scott.
Good evening. Good evening.
For some reason, I knew that you would be here this evening. I just didn't know what time. But
It's
I knew
good timing because I got to jump out.
Well, see.
Well, that's the way it's always the case. You know, if people duck and dodge, you know, it's very understandable. You know, hopefully he'll be back sometime. I got some big words for him about his Seattle, Mr. Geno Smith, who's doing a tremendous job out there.
Well, Bo, before you leave, Bo, you got to talk about that game. Talk about your Seattle game. You guys pulled out the victory there.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, I mean, so there's some very real concerns I have with the team. You know, fortunately, Geno did look great, actually. That offensive line, ooh, man, I thought it was going to be far improved based on the amount of personnel that they brought in. But, I mean, I've seen people get into, you know, subway turnstiles slower than what was happening with that offensive line. So, I mean, it was a little rough. And then the defense showed something that has a lot of concerns, and that is you could run up the middle with ease, and they couldn't do anything about a tight end. Like if the throw was going to a tight end, it was a completed pass. So there's some very real concerns. Now, granted, they're 2-0, right? And whether you win pretty or ugly, a win's a win. So I'll take it. But if you're really watching the game, both trenches still have a lot of work to figure out.
All right, well, give us your final thoughts, there, Bo.
So my final thoughts are, I really think that the Panthers are working hard to ruin their number one overall pick, like actively trying to destroy the kid. That's my final thoughts.
Sad.
It really is.
But Bo, now I know you got to go, but just thinking of some of the Ryan Leaf and some of the other ones, there's talks that this kid is the worst quarterback ever. I don't.
So
now he may be bad, but I don't put him in a Ryan Leaf category yet.
So actually, even Ryan Leaf came out and kind of went after the organization, and I don't believe it's Bryce Young's fault. Right. This is a scenario where he was brought in. They gave up the farm to get him. They got rid of key players. They had absolutely no cap space. So there was absolutely no way to surround him. So then you're going to make an undersized guy go play hero ball with no offensive line and no weapons. You're not going to look good. Like there's just no scenario where that works out, which is why he got hurt last year. Come into this year, they didn't have any cap space or draft capital, so they didn't add anything of note. So, I mean, if you're looking at Bryce Young as say you view him as he could be an elite quarterback, that just means that team is 52 guys away from being a good team. Like I don't know what you want him to do. But one of the things with Bryce is I really feel like he's one of those guys that would have been way better off holding a clipboard for the first year, actually learning behind a vet, getting up to speed in the NFL. Instead, they force him out there. He gets hurt. They come back this year. He starts 2 games. He's terrible. And then you bench him. And if we've watched anything through the history of football, if you have a vet and you let a guy sit behind him and then he gets to move into that position, even if he ultimately gets benched again, it affects the psyche much different than you're our starter. Not only that, but after your second loss, you're like, nope, he's our guy. And less than 12 hours later, you're like, you know what? It's pretty cool if you ride the bench. We're going to bring this old guy out. He's going to have his center hold his walker for him while he throws the ball because he's somehow better than you. So, I mean, they're just doing a lot of things to crush this kid's confidence. And we've seen it through the history of the sport, and it doesn't generally end up with him being better.
All right, Bo. Hey, thank you so much for dropping in, man. We appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you next week, hopefully.
You know it.
Take care, bro.
Yeah. Bill, a couple last questions for you before we let you go. I want you, even though the Texans managed to pull out their victory over the visiting Chicago Bears, what's your thoughts on Caleb Williams? How has he looked to you these first 2 weeks?
Like a rookie quarterback. So what people have somehow, I don't know, conflated, forgotten, you can count on one hand and probably have some fingers left over since the merger, right? Since the merger, and you can go back before the merger, not lose too many fingers, that a rookie quarterback has come into a situation, especially on a team that hasn't been good on offense since, well, let's see. Since I've been alive, I guess I'll have to ask somebody else if they can remember a dynamic Chicago Bears offense that I just haven't seen. But comes to a situation where a team has, historically been pedestrian on offense and just steps in and blows everyone away. Like that just usually does not happen. Every once in a while you'll get, a Russell Wilson, but it's a surprise, right? It's not someone that everyone's been seeing. People have been talking about this kid since he was 15, 16 years old. Russ was a little different. Russ was a 2-star on most recruiting services, a 3 on a few. And once again, literally people said that many people said baseball was the best sport. This is a kid that, Caleb was being talked about as either the first or second best quarterback in all of high school football from the time he was up 15, 16 years old, all the way up through the time that he goes off to Oklahoma. So people have seen him coming for a long time. But he's going through all the normal rookie quarterback growing pains. Like everything you see him doing are things that you should have expected to see him do. Holding the ball too long, being surprised by late movement in defenses. When suddenly the pre-snap read and the post-snap read don't match, he's not sure where to go with the ball. Like a rookie, right? Everything that you've seen him doing is like a rookie quarterback.
Okay. Let's talk about Bryce Young. Are you still able to hang around? You want to talk about Bryce Young and then give your final thoughts?
Yeah, a few more minutes. I mean, everything we just said about Caleb Williams, you could say about Bryce Young, with the exception that he's smaller and not quite as athletic. He's a good athlete, but not quite as athletic as Caleb. So you're talking about a smaller frame quarterback who, unlike Kyler Murray, he can make some plays outside the pocket, but is not freakishly athletic when he stretches the imagination. So you're talking about a above average athlete with below average size on a team with way below average surrounding talent. I think that they may have something someday in some of their younger players, but someday, right? The running back, that they drafted is still several weeks away from being able to do, I think, full contact football activities. Xavier Leggette's going to be good someday as well, but he's a rookie. Like they have two kinds of players on their offense: old and close to being done, and young and not having figured it out yet, and then bad. 3 kinds of players. They have bad, they have old but close to being done, and then young and still trying to figure it out. That's all they have. They don't have anybody in the prime of their career just exploding, right? Nowhere on their entire offense. Whether you're talking about line players, whether you're talking about, ball handling, none of that. Nobody is. They have young players who are maybe a year or two away, and then older players who are a year or two away from retiring, and then everyone who should be in the sweet spot, 25 to 28, is bad, right? So that's not what you want for those who are wondering about team construction. You would like your best players to be 25 to 28, not your worst players to be 25 to 28. So benching Bryce Young does really, the only thing it does is reduce his value if you do want to move on from him, because now he doesn't get a chance to maybe get hot against a good team and increase his value in case you want to move him to, say, a contender that loses a starting quarterback, or some situation where you might be able to get something back for him by benching him. You have now said, if I do move him, not have to move him at a discount. Everything they do is wrong, is what I've come to realize about the franchise.
Okay. Don, what did you think about the benching of the young man? Remember, they took him over C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, so being a rookie in the league has its ups and downs, peaks and valleys. I don't know if he's that bad of a quarterback. I mean, I think just based on frustration and maybe expectations. If you look at Troy Aikman's first year in the league, he was terrible. He was horrible. Peyton Manning struggled. But a rookie quarterback, I can't think of the last rookie quarterback just come out and dazzle someone outside C.J. Stroud in recent years. Someone help me, but
Dan Marino.
Yeah, Marino, that's true. But like recent, I guess anything after 1968 is recent to me. But it pains me to see these young guys get given up on so easily. And I just remember back in the day. I remember Aikman, I think, won 2 games his rookie year, and now he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. So I don't know. It's just I feel for the guy, but the coach makes those decisions, and so you got to live by it. I just hope that Quinn Ewers doesn't get drafted by the Panthers.
Dave.
You're asking about Bryce Young?
Yes. Your thoughts on Bryce Young, the way he's been.
It's a pathetic team, and really what they needed to do, and I think that's what Bill was talking about, is you need to build an infrastructure before you're bringing in the guy that's going to be taking the snaps. And the Washington, they were the Redskins, the Commanders now. Back in the day, they had Heath Schuler, they had a couple other guys that they brought in. And then they were just getting wiped all over the place because it was a sad sack team, and they couldn't protect the guy. So maybe in a way, by benching him, maybe they're extending his career, and hopefully he can stick around long enough where he can produce a little bit. But I mean, the Panthers are just a bad team.
Well, I see Mr. Scott is wearing the all black tonight, so. Mr. Scott, what's your thoughts on Bryce Young?
Well, like Dave said, and everybody said, the whole team is just a sad sack. And my fellow alumni from Minnesota State Mankato, Adam Thielen, who you never hear anything. He's just a real soldier that gets in there and does his job. And he's just like, what is going on here? And hits. So, I think that was a real telltale. And then to put Andy Dalton, really, come on. How does this make Bryce feel? I don't know. They're in a bad setup, bad situation. And maybe, maybe we're right. Maybe by benching him, that's probably a best thing they could have done for him right now. And just let them build up a team and see what happens. But yeah, right now they're my go against team every week. They're go against. That's given. Then Detroit, they're just givens that I go against.
Okay, yeah.
Nice little slip in there, Anthony.
Mr. Scott, we also talked about the Raiders. They beat the Ratbirds. Gardner Minshew led his team to 3 scores in the fourth quarter. What's your thoughts on the Raiders beating the Ratbirds?
Well, Gardner Minshew, sometimes these guys end up being better than we think they are. And so I haven't really paid a lot of attention to the Raiders, but I was impressed by that win, and I think they got a chance to sneak up on some people. I really do. I mean, when you're scoring points, there's certain teams like Pittsburgh and those teams, they can't score. They're no good. So, if you can score points in this league now, for some reason the scoring seems to be down for whatever reason. But if you can score, I think you can make some noise, and I like what I see of them so far. I'm putting them on my board.
Okay. All right. Well, since we got pretty caught up now, I'm going to let you start with our new questions here. New players shine for the Bills, beat down of the Fins, 31-10. Bills running back James Cook scored 3 times, but Tua had another concussion, and now he's on the IR list. Mr. Scott, is it time for Tua to hang up his cleats? And can Skylar Johnson keep the Fins a contender?
Boy, that's a hard question. With these concussions and the play was so ridiculous. All he had to do was slide down. That's really all he has to do when you get out there in the open like that. You can't just be a target. And he's had multiple concussions now.
It's his 4th, right?
Is it that many? I know it's multiple. So should he retire? I mean, he's got a big contract. I mean, he's the face of their team. So I guess they just have to wait out these 4 weeks and see what happens.
He got his guaranteed money though. Dave, what's your thoughts here?
Well, there's a lot of people suggesting he retire, and then there's other people saying, "Hey, that's his decision." But notably, the son of Mike Webster has been encouraging him to think about it. Now, I don't think he's talking to him directly. I think that this is through social media. I think that Tua should be wearing a Guardian cap. More players are wearing it. I don't think it would have necessarily prevented this concussion, but anything to preserve himself. But at this point, I think he should be thinking seriously about it. He should be talking to some neurologists, because there's just some people that are more susceptible to getting concussions. And I know that from coaching rugby, we had kids that we had to tell them, you can't play anymore. You just can't play anymore, because every time they would get out onto the field, they would take a hit that another kid would pop back up from, but they would be dazed. And people have different physical makeups, and I'm just afraid that in Tua's case, he's just susceptible to concussions, more susceptible than the average player. And he's very talented, and I've just last week I was saying, hey, he's showing that he's been healthy. He's had a long string. But like what I think Don or both Don and Anthony said, he had the first down, but I think that the game was out of reach at that point anyway. And I think that was his ego. He was close to the goal line, and I think he was probably frustrated at the way that game was going. But he really needed to protect himself in that case, and the rules are there for him to do just that, and he did not do that. And he had the first down where he could have begun his slide. And the whole irony in it is who he ran into. He hit Hamlin in the chest, and Hamlin about lost his life getting a helmet to the chest just a couple seasons ago. There's a bit of irony there, and Hamlin wasn't trying to lay on a blow either. He was kind of stood up. So, I mean, to me, my personal opinion is I think he really needs to think seriously about it. He needs to talk to some neurologists. There's been a lot of studies being done on concussions, and he should take this time while he's on injured reserve and make a big reason. And it doesn't matter whether he's the face of that team. Maybe he can be the face of, hey, I'm doing something for my body and set an example.
Don, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, like has been said, these concussions, often happen in clusters, and basically you're bruising your brain, and there's only so much your brain can take. So I'm thinking, hey, you've made more money than a lot of us will ever make by far. Just hang it up. I mean, it's not worth, when you're 45, being on the feeding tube and drinking your meals to a straw or whatever. It happens when you get that CTE, but just give it up. If it were me, that's what I would do. Of course, when you're that age, you're immortal. You keep going, but Father Time catches up with you eventually, and if you're brain injured, it happens more suddenly than usual. So just give it up.
Bill, what do you think? I mean, you're that age with, probably close to 50 mil. A little different, but what's your thoughts, Bill? Is Bill there?
Earth to Bill. Earth to Bill.
I think we lost. I think we might have lost Bill.
So, in answer to your question,
we're talking about two of the concussions now, whether or not.
And in the interest of full disclosure, I do not have a license to practice medicine. I've never taken a single class in neurology, but I have been concussed. I have seen concussions up close, and some of them can be quite frightening. He's had at least two that were like above the midline in terms of severity. There's two fairly severe concussions, and a couple of that were, maybe not quite as frightening, but certainly clearly concussions. For me, this is a life decision. I mean, I love football, but it's not more important than any young person's life. So I hope he gets all the best possible medical attention and medical information before he makes whatever decision he makes. And then I hope everyone else will abide by whatever decision he makes. But what's most important is that he be able to live well and live a long, productive, happy, safer life going forward, because like I said, as much as I love the game, it's not worth someone's life or someone being able to have a high quality of life.
Did you want to give us your final thoughts now, Bill?
Sure, why not? There's a lot of things that you can watch and read and what have you, and I've talked about this woman before. I'm gonna mention her one more time. Because I was so taken with her and so intrigued by her life, there's been a couple of good books written, but I cannot find a play, so I'm writing one. I cannot find a movie or a television show about this woman, and it's Effie Manley, the only woman inducted to the Baseball Hall of Fame. And her gravestone says very simply, she loved baseball. She lived a fascinating life, has ties to Pittsburgh, sort of, kind of. And although the team she was co-owner of was the Newark Eagles. She was born to a woman. Her mother herself had kind of a weird background. Her mother was an immigrant from Indonesia, and depending upon what you read or hear, she may have been mixed race herself. But Miss Manley was extremely light-skinned, but she lived in the Black community. She married Black men twice, and essentially chose to live as a Black American. But I can't find a definitive answer about her exact racial makeup. Everyone describes her, and I've seen pictures of her, describes her, as attractive and, very, very, and some people say looking purely Caucasian. Some say she looks Caucasian and something else. But the point I'm making is that there are amazing stories. Like, the thing I love about sports, beyond the stuff we all talk about, competition, toughness, and, seeing someone rewarded for their tenacity and seeing people overcome the seemingly, things that are seemingly impossible, and all the things we get to see, right? People yelling, "Do you believe in miracles?" in 1980, and all the things we've got a chance to see. But the thing that fascinates me is the kind of personalities that are drawn to our sports. Say what you want about Lance Armstrong. He is a uniquely American personality, right? I mean, there's something about him that just he wouldn't have happened in Holland, right? You couldn't have gotten him to the things that make him wouldn't have somehow come together in Costa Rica. There's things about America and America's sporting environment that produces these totally different one-off personalities. And like I said, I'm extremely interested and darn near obsessed with Effa Manley. So I'm writing something about her, and it's just going to be called "She Loved Baseball." But once again, it is an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure. I too, like everyone else here, miss having Demetrius. I know what his job is demanding. I am currently pounding on the home stretch of a huge project at my job that determines many, many things in the future of the company. So I get it. But thank you, gentlemen. Have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Thank you so much, Bill.
All
See
right.
you next
Take
week.
care, Bill.
Well, I guess the next thing that we'll get to talk about is them Cowboys. So, let's see here. Sunday morning, I believe it was one of the first games, we saw, where do I have this at now? Everybody knows that the Cowboys are one of my favorite teams. So let me go down here and get my little Cowboys up. Where is it at here? Oh, yeah. Okay, here we go. And are they what we thought they are? The Cowgirls offense gives up 44 points to the Saints. Anybody seen Michael Parsons? Is he running through somebody? I didn't see him Sunday. Where was he? Don, what the hell happened to the Cowboys?
I have no idea. But you know what? Y'all been hearing me for a while now. I said they'll eventually fold. They just folded earlier than we thought they would. They were uninspired. They came out and shit themselves. I mean, as bad as Dallas was, New Orleans looked good. They look good in all facets of the game. So keep right on those Saints. But yeah, Cowboys they're terrible.
Mr. Scott, what did you think about the Cowboy game?
Yeah, it laid an egg, no question about it. I mean, New Orleans scores what 45,
44.
45. I mean, but in both games they scored that points like that, and so they just ran over the Cowboys. Cowboys have talent. They have a lot of money in the team. I'm sure Jerry Jones is having a conniption right now, and I don't know what to say about him. I always try to give Dak, I keep saying he's been a piñata for everybody, and I try to give him the benefit of the doubt, but it's getting hard now. It's really, these next few weeks are going to really tell a story. You get down to, 1-3, 0-4. Boy, that can be a big problem. So, yeah, I don't know what to think about. Right now, they're off my board. It took them completely off. Yeah.
Dave?
Well, they still got the weapons. I just hope they can get their act together for next week and beat the team that they're playing next week. But hey, the Saints are looking good. I mean, Derek Carr, he threw, 4 touchdowns?
Kamara ran for 4. I know. Well, he had 4 touchdowns. I think you're right. Carr had 4 TDs too. 2 of them to Kamara.
Yeah. So, I really don't understand because they have the players to be a good team. I think so. Why aren't they producing on the field? And I hope Hey, when they play the Steelers, I hope that they lay another egg. But next week, I'm hoping they hatch one.
Okay,
Yeah,
sticking
the
with you
Steelers
there.
can't score, so I think I'm going to
Well,
have some thoughts on them.
we're
Steelers can't
going to
score.
talk.
They
Don't worry,
can't
we're going to
score
talk
points.
about.
I mean, field goals are
We're
not
going
going
to
to get
talk
it done.
about the Steelers, Mr. Scott.
I'm just saying, I just said a comment about, they, hope that they may, and I think that's a good chance for them to rebound. Actually, they got a team that can't score. I think that's
next week. Yeah, next week will be perfect.
Well, we'll see.
For a rebound
Let's talk about some fool's gold here, or at least fool's gold to me, because ayahuasca led the Not Yets to a 24-17 victory over the Titans. But we've seen the Titans. Will Levis is a mess. I don't know if you can see. I mean, Tony Pollard is the leading rusher, but this game it had you had a young kid, the youngest kid in the NFL, Breeden Allen. He scored 2 TDs for the Not Yets. What's your thoughts here, Dave?
Well, number one, it's that Aaron Rodgers is actually surviving. He's getting sacked, but he's getting back up, and I think that every game that he's able to get back up and be healthy, he's going to gain more confidence in his body, and so I think in that sense, they should be happy. I just don't know. I thought that their defense was supposed to be really, really top shelf. And, hey, Will Levis is throwing interceptions, from the Titans. But, for the Jets, I think that if Aaron Rodgers can be more confident, then, maybe that they'll win more games. Now, as far as the Titans are concerned, hey, they got Mason Rudolph as backup. Bring him on. Bring him on. I thought Mason, did great at the end of last year. And so, they got Tennessee at least has somebody that they can turn to that I think could win some games for them.
What do you think there, Don?
Well, I guess we eat some crow. I did not think Rodgers would last that game, to be honest. He showed something. I mean, whatever he's on, maybe we should all use some of that. Take care of our aches and pains and mental clarity. But he actually surprised me. So hats off to him.
Mr. Scott.
Well, yeah, Rodgers, it wasn't a dominant performance, but I mean, sometimes you just got to take the decision. Sometimes, you're not going to get the knockout, and I think as long as he's upright and so far so good, I think, he's got this chance to be, to use that memory muscle and, be somewhat a reasonable facsimile of his old self. And if he can do that, I was encouraged by his performance, actually. And I think the fact that he stayed up, he wasn't hurt, he took some hits, seemed to show some interest in the game, some fire. So, yeah, sometimes you just got to take decisions. And so that's fine. They got the win, and they'll go on to the next one. And, they didn't look all bad. So, yeah.
Okay. Mr. Scott, the Cardinals' rookie wide receiver, Marvin Harrison, he scored 2 TDs as the Cards had a 41-10 drubbing of the Rams. The tallest midget, he was 17 out of 21 attempts. He had 266 yards and 3 TDs. Mr. Scott, what you think about them Cardinals?
Well, I tell you, the world's tallest midget, he looked great, and in a way, it's almost like because he's so small, he hides behind people. I can't see him, and he's very, very quick. And he's now that he's really healthy now, which he hasn't been for a while. And finally using Marvin Harrison. I mean, the first game they didn't. I don't think they threw to him. Maybe once or twice. So he's got a real weapon with Marvin Harrison Jr. And I think that Cardinals they look like they're going to make some noise. I might have to stop calling him the world's tallest midget. I mean, because I think he's doing. He looked great. I mean, he looked faster than the other team. He looked very quick. He was able on those rollouts, those deep drops. His arm is there. So I'm keeping my eye on. The Cardinals.
Dave.
I have concerns about the Rams. How can you not cover Marvin Harrison? Everybody knew, he's the guy coming on. I mean, on his one catch, he was country wide open. He
was 1 for 4 the week before. I mean,
yeah, but he was country wide open. Nobody was near him. He catches the ball and goes 60 yards. He could have walked in from 60 yards out.
Country wide open. I got to remember.
Yeah, I mean that was amazing to me. That particular play. But I got to say, I've kind of been down on Kyler Murray, but I think, like Anthony was saying, he stepped up to the plate. Hey, he was delivering the ball. Whether the guy was how wide open, he got the ball to him, and he took off because Marvin Harrison, he's a talented guy. And to me, I thought that defenses would make sure that that's the guy that they're not going to let hurt them. And the Rams did. So, I had more confidence in the Rams going into this game, and I come out of this game with a lot less confidence in them as a team. And Stafford, he was sacked 5 times in that game.
Yeah.
You got to protect your quarterback.
Don, your thoughts?
I think he went to get a drink.
Did we miss Don?
Yeah, I think he stepped away. He'll be right back.
Okay. Let's move on here. Let's see. Who else was? Oh yeah, Mr. Scott. It seems that the Vikings defensive coordinator he stifled the 49ers. The Vikings are 2-0, and they take over first place in the division. Mr. Scott, will the real Vikings please stand up? I've been talking. We talked about the preseason, and you were talking about what we're gonna do with a quarterback here. Seems like, despite all of my doubts, it does seem that he is finding Jefferson. He is finding his targets. What's your assessment of those Vikings after 2 games, Mr. Scott?
Well, Flores defense, Sam Darnold is really, the guy's got experience. He was a top draft pick. He's been in the league. He was on San Francisco last year. He was their backup.
Yeah.
And, that 90-some yard pass to Jefferson, you talk about country, I'm very impressed so far this week. I'm very excited about the coming week against C.J. Stroud, how that's going to work in Houston. But yeah, I think the Vikings are looking good in this division. The Bears, I don't think they're no good. The Packers somehow eked out. I don't know how in the world they got to win. Their quarterback's hurt, and and the Lions. I said that they had they overachieved last year. I kept trying to tell. There's a gentleman that's on the show every now and then that he continues to espouse the greatness of Jared Goff, and I said, okay, well, the balloon is bursting. It's bursting. There's already the knives are circling already in Detroit. And so the Vikings are looking very, very, very good. Running game with a backup running back Chandler and Aaron Jones, a two-pronged attack. I mean, I think this division is ours. I mean, I really do. I know it's early, and I'm not one to go on a limb, and I'm very confident about having a better record than the team in Pittsburgh. I'm willing to even up the ante on that. I mean, I'm even willing to just up it. So, yeah, I think that so yeah, my Vikings are looking very, very good.
So you want to double down? Is that what you're saying?
At least.
Okay, all right. You got it. You heard it right here in public, everybody. We doubled down.
Best record. Minnesota Vikings best record over.
Best record.
Yeah, the team that can't score points, can't score touchdowns, kicking field goals. Oh yeah, all day long.
Okay, all right. But we did say best record. We didn't say most points scored. So, okay, all right. So, Dave, now that he's disparaged our Steelers, I'm going to kind of join him a little bit here, even though we are 2-0. But Dave, frustrated Broderick Jones, he gets benched, and he calls out the decisions after his benching. We got Najee Harris, who's talking about problems with the Steelers' offense after he only gained 66 yards this week and 88 last week. Dave, we got the offense has scored one touchdown in 2 weeks.
Pathetic. It's pathetic.
Dave, what's going on here? Well, we still talk about the Russell Wilson not being the starter yet. Justin Fields has a clause that kicks in if he has to play, if he starts 10 games. What's going on here, Dave?
All right. Well, I'll try to get you off the ledge. First of all, with Russell Wilson, with his status, he was limited in practice today. So I doubt that he's going to be playing against the Chargers. The last 2 games, he's been the emergency quarterback. I imagine the same thing is going to happen at Pittsburgh's home opener. And really the question is do you go with a healthy Justin Fields or do you go with a under 100% Russell Wilson? And I think that where a lot of Pittsburgh fans would prefer to see Russell Wilson playing, they think that he could generate more offense. The caveat is a healthy Russell Wilson, and he doesn't have the mobility that Justin Fields has. Now, the thing that Justin Fields has done that's good, they've been robbed of a couple touchdowns too by the officials, and I'll point out, like for example, the official that called this game, Clete Blakeman. Well, he became a head referee in 2010, and since that time, from 2010 and going into this game, he officiated 19 Steelers games. And the Steelers only won 6 of them. They had a 31.2% winning rate when this guy was the head official. During that same period, from 2010 until today, or before the Broncos game, the Steelers were 142 wins, 83 losses, and 2 ties with a winning percentage of 62.6% of their games. That's a huge disparity. They win 62% of their games overall, but when this guy refs, they only win 31%. Now, I'm not saying that there's a link. Maybe it's coincidental, but that's quite a disparity. And there's a 51-yard pass to George Pickens, and then there was also a Pickens touchdown where they called a pick play on Van Jefferson, and Gene Sterafor, former head referee, said he would have never called it because he didn't initiate the contact. But that said, that aside, the most important thing about Justin Fields, what was he known for when he was in Chicago? What was the big crib on him? Turning the ball over. How many turnovers has he had in these first 2 games? 0. And that's what the Steelers are looking for. Arthur Smith has put like a very conservative offense around him, and he spread the ball around. That's one thing. And if Reggie was here, I'd like to hear his view. But 6 different players made first downs for the Steelers, and so they're spreading the ball around. Now about the the defense dominated again. Denver only had 62 net yards in the first half, which is just incredible. That's passing and rushing, 62 yards. Now, they let up a little bit in the second half. Now, with Broderick Jones, he had actually lost his starting job before the game started. Troy Faltano started the game at right tackle. And for whatever reasons, they wanted to try a rotation. So Broderick Jones came in for a drive when they started on their 1 yard line. And he had 3 penalties in that same drive, including the 51-yard pass to Pickens that was nullified by his holding. And Tomlin yanked him out, sat him down. That was it. The plan was to have like a rotation going. But those penalties stuck a fork in that. And I think what Broderick Jones, his comments, they sounded bad, but basically what he was saying is, hey, if I'm not going to start, I should sit. In other words, he was saying the rotation wasn't going to work. And I think that a lot of offensive linemen would probably agree. I was never an offensive lineman, but it just seems to be the type of position where you don't want to be substituting players in and out because they work as a unit. But that's where Broderick Jones, he's a young guy. He's going to have to work on his technique and maybe get a chance to compete with Dan Moore for the starting left tackle job. Troy Faltano the rookie, may be the right tackle for the rest of the season. Now with Najee's venting, he was a captain for the Steelers before, and he's still a team leader. What he was venting about was the offense shooting themselves in the foot with the stupid penalties. And that was what his point was, is that we got to stop shooting ourselves in the foot. If we make ourselves 2nd and 12, well, then the running backs you can't run the plays that we wanted to run. And that's what the Steelers want to do, is that they want to run the ball. And that's where Najee that was the source of his frustration. So now, for the Steelers, they got the Chargers coming up. This is going to be a big test because the Chargers have actually given up less points than the Steelers, and they had this big running game. And Dobbins, he has toasted the Steelers before when he was with Ravens with his running attack. So this will be a big test. It'll be interesting to see. I just hope they avoid another embarrassment like last year at their home opener, and Pittsburgh steps up. But they're not going to win the game if the offense only puts 13 points on the board. They're going to have to open up the playbook a little bit. And they've purposely kept it constrained because they're trying to avoid Justin Fields turning the ball over. And they've been successful at that.
Okay. But yeah, like you said, if you don't put 24 points on the board against the Chargers, you're not going to win. I don't see it. But anyway, that's
field goals. They'll get some field goals. You can count on them.
Yeah, but
we got a field goal kicker.
Yeah, but so this against the Chargers, we're going to kick 8 field goals now. I mean, or 10. I mean,
Well, who was it? The Washington kicker had 7.
yeah, but the how many Super Bowls does the Commanders have? Thank you. Okay, I mean, I'm a Steeler fan.
Joe Gibbs,
I'm a Steeler fan. I'm not a Commander fan. I don't care what the Commanders do. I want to know what we're going to do.
Well,
But anyway,
they won their first 2 games. They did what they had to do in order to win.
Yeah, but you're both concerned. You're both very concerned. You're very concerned by by inability to score points. You're very concerned about that. No touchdowns. You're very concerned.
Yes. No,
I just said that they're going to have to score more than 13 points in order to win.
Yeah.
I just finished saying that.
Yeah, and I said that they have to score at least 24 points. So I mean,
they just have to score. They have to score more than the Chargers scored.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, I think the Chargers with their offense will put at least 21 points on the board, if not more. So I'm hoping that we can get at least 24.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And it's not their quarterback I'm worried about; it's their running backs.
Yeah, I'm gonna when we go through the odds, I'll see what the over under is for this. But I got a few trick bets as I always do. So Dave, you got your pencil and paper out here because we're getting ready to get down to the nitty gritty here. So who scores on their first?
Would you want me to catch everybody up on where people stand?
Oh yeah, you can catch us up. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we were all here last week. Yeah.
Okay, so for the Pick'ems games, I was 8 of 15, and I'm 18 of 31 for the season. 18 of 31 for the season. Anthony, you were 7 of 14. You're 7 of 14 for the season. Don, you remain at 10 of 16 for the season on the Pick'em games. And James, you and I are tied at 18 of 31 because you were only 5 of 15 last week. After you had 13 the week before, but only 5 in the Pick'ems this week.
That's abysmal. That's abysmal.
Now on the over unders, I was 8 of 15 last week in week 2, and I'm 15 of 31 for the season. Don, you were 8 of 16 from week 1. Anthony, you were 4 of 11, and you kind of wimped out on a few of these.
That's abysmal.
And then James, you did not pick any over-unders in week 1, but in week 2, you were 9 of 15. And the reason that it's 15 is because there was a push in the Tennessee Jet game.
Oh, okay.
And then also in the Pick'ems, there was a push in the Bears Texans game because it was +6.
Okay.
And that was a push.
All right. Well, let's before we get to the ones that count, we got a few, like I said, trick bets here. Mr. Scott, who scores on their first drive, the Broncos or the Bucks?
Oh well, first of all, I have to say that I'm not a big prop better. I mean, like flipping coins and who scores first and who falls down first, who gets sacked first. I'll go with the Bucks.
Yeah. Well, these don't really count. We'll get down to the ones that really count here in a minute. But these are just little prop bets. Dave, who scores first?
On the first drive?
Yes.
And who are the Bucks playing?
The Bucks and the Broncos.
I'm going to go with the Bucks.
Okay. Don.
Bucks. Mayfield and Mike Evans.
Okay. Don, sticking with who scores on their first drive, the Clowns or the Little People? Little People being the Giants.
I'll say the Browns.
Dave.
Browns.
Mr. Scott.
Who was that against the Browns?
The clown, yeah, the Clowns or the Giants?
Oh, yeah, the Browns.
Okay. The Panthers or the Raiders, Mr. Scott?
Raiders.
Dave?
Okay, and this is the first team to score, right?
On their first drive. You
Oh,
could
so
say,
you could say that
could say
neither. We could have said neither.
Yeah, you could say neither.
Oh, dang. Well, for the Clowns and the Giants, I'm going to say neither.
Okay. And what about the Panthers and the Raiders?
I think the Raiders could score on their first drive.
Don?
Yeah, we'll give them choice of Raiders, of course.
Okay. Don, the Fins or the Seahawks? Remember, there's no Tua this week.
Yeah, I go Seattle.
What do you think, Dave?
No Tua. I'm going to say neither.
Mr. Scott?
Yeah, I'll say neither.
Okay. Mr. Scott, not yet's quarterback Ayahuasca will have 275 yards passing against the Patriots. 275 plus.
Yeah, I'll take the over.
Dave?
I'm going to say under.
Don?
I'll say under.
Okay. Don, CJ Stroud will have 225 yards plus passing against the Panthers.
Oh, yeah. I'll
Mr.
take
Scott?
that.
So they play the Panthers, or I thought they played the Vikings.
Oh, yeah, that is. Okay. Sorry about that.
Stroud played them last week.
The Stroud picked the
Texas.
Panthers. Yeah, it is the Vikings. It is the Vikings. I'm sorry, Don. 325 yards passing against the Vikings.
I thought 225.
Okay, you said not 320. You said under 325 then.
No, I thought originally was
225, I thought.
No, it's 325. It's CJ Stroud will have
Oh,
300.
no. He's not going to throw that much. No.
No, not against this defense, no.
Yeah, under.
I'll say under.
And you say under, of course, Mr. Scott, right?
Oh, yeah, not against that defense, no.
Okay. Who will have the most passing yards in this game? Jared Goff or the world's tallest midget, Mr. Scott?
Oh, I've got to go with Kyler. I got to go with Kyler Murray. Yeah, I think the Lions have just, they're going to implode. They were great last year. They reached a plateau, and that's, they'll come back to reality this year.
What do you think, Don?
I'll say yes. Against the Bears, yeah.
No, this is Jared Goff or the world's tallest midget. Who's going to have the most passing yards?
Lions, Cardinals.
I'll go with Goff.
What do you say, Dave?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Goff too.
That's 2-1. Okay.
They're siding with Demetrius is what they're doing.
Dave, who's going to have the most rushing yards? J.K. Dobbins or Najee Harris?
Oh, that's a tough one. But I got to go with Dobbins. Because Najee's going to be splitting with Jalen Warren, and then Cordell Patterson's even getting some carries. So I'm going to say Dobbins.
What do you think, Don?
I'll go Dobbins.
Wow. Okay. No faith in Najee. What do you think? What do you say, Mr. Scott?
Yeah, I'm going to follow that camp. Dobbins.
Okay. All right, guys. Okay. No faith in Najee. Okay, let's get to the sports book here and see how we add up. Okay. First game. Okay. Mr. Scott, the New England Patriots are at the Jets. They're getting 6, and the over-under is 38.5.
I'll take the Jets.
You taking the points or you giving them?
I'm taking the Jets to cover that.
You're taking them to cover, and you take So let's see. You're taking the Jets -6 and over under 38.5.
Oh boy, I'll take an over such a low number.
Okay, I'll also I don't know here. I'm going to take the Jets, but I'm going to take the over. Dave.
Jets, New England. Just 38.5. I'm going to take the over, and I'm going to take the Patriots just to be different.
Don.
I'm going to take the Patriots with the under.
Okay. Don, the Broncos and the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are the home team. The Broncos are getting 6.5, and the over-under is 40. No hook.
I'll take the Bucks with the spread, and I will go over.
I'll stick with you there, Don. What do you got, Mr. Scott?
Yeah, I gotta go with that too. The Bucks and the over.
Dave?
Yeah. I'm with you guys. Tampa Bay and the over.
Dave, the Giants, the Clowns are playing the Little People. The Little People are visitors. The Clowns are giving them 6.5, and once again, that familiar number, 38.5.
I will take. I hate to do it, but I'm going to take Cleveland, and they're -6.5.
Yep, they're giving the Giants 6.5.
And I'm going to do an under.
I have no faith in the Giants, defense or offensively. As much as I hate to do it, I'm going to take the Clowns and the over. Mr. Scott, did I get you on that one?
No, I'm going to take Cleveland, and I'm going to take the under.
Okay. Don, did we get you on this one?
Not yet.
Okay, it's on you now.
I'll take Cleveland. And what was the over under?
38.5.
I'll go over.
Okay.
Let's go on ass whipping.
All right. Don, the Eagles are visiting the Saints. And the Saints are giving the Eagles 3.
I'm going to take the Saints.
Home field advantage. Okay.
Give me the over under.
49.5.
I'll go Saints with the over.
Yeah, I mean they didn't score 97 points in 2 games. I got to go the over. Now, who am I taking, the Eagles or the Saints? Considering that the way the Eagles played last week, and considering the Saints, the way the Saints played last week on the road, I'm going to have to take the Saints in the over. Dave, what do you got?
I'm going to take the Philly with the points, and I'm going to do an under.
Okay. All right. Stay in there, Dave.
You got Anthony on that?
Did I get you, Mr. Scott?
No.
Okay. Eagles and Saints. Eagles getting 3. Over under is 45 and 49.5.
Yeah, I'll take Philly to rebound, and I think it'll be under. I mean, we'll see if this high flying circus can keep going. You know, there's no trapeze. You know, we'll see. You know, Philly should snap out of their doldrums here. You know, you got to realize that with no preseason and all this crazy stuff, these first few weeks are kind of crazy. So now they got to settle in to really start playing some football. So that's what I'm doing.
Okay. Well, Mr. Scott, then I'll give you Don. I got you. Did I get you on this one, Don?
Yeah, he has Saints and over.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Scott, I'm going to let you start this one off. The Chargers are visiting the Steelers. The Chargers are getting 1.5. And the over-under is 36.
Well, in reality, that's off the board. You know, I mean, that's not. I wouldn't put a penny on that thing. But for these purposes, it's so hard to go again. You know, Tom has his rabbit's foot, and so you know, it's. I've got to go. I'll take begrudgingly. I'll take the Steelers and the under. I think that they want to make it under. A lot of infighting, holding, hitting, and holding. So yeah, that's. I'll take the Steelers in the under.
Are you taking you taking the over or the under 36?
Under.
Okay. What did you get there, Dave?
For this game? Oh,
yeah.
Man. I'm so nervous about this. I'm gonna go with Pittsburgh in the under.
Okay. Of course.
There's going to be split gloves. They'll split the glove to get time, and there are all kinds of craziness, you know, to keep the game in slow. If it rains and if there's mud, that could really be interesting.
What do you got, Don?
Which game is this?
This is the Chargers against the Steelers. The Steelers are at home, and they're giving the Chargers 1.5.
Oh, sorry, James. I gotta go Chargers on this one.
Okay, and the over/under is 36.
Under.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Don, the Texans.
What about you, James?
Oh, I'm taking the Steelers. I thought you knew. I'm taking the Steelers, and I'm going to take the under. Don, the Texans are playing the Vikings. The Vikings are giving the Texans 2 points, and the over/under is 46.
I'll take the Texans in the points, and I'll go under on that one.
I'm going to take the Texans and the points, and I'm going to go over on this one. I think both teams will put up a bunch of points. Texans haven't really settled down yet, but we'll see. I think Jefferson is going to get his. I also think Nico will get 1, and Diggs will get 1. Joe Mixon will run for 1, but we'll see. What do you got there, Dave?
I think I'm going to go with Minnesota. That 97-yard strike to Justin Jefferson. You know, Darnold threw it over 50 yards in the air, and he was covered. And it was a good. So I'm going to take Minnesota, and I'll take the over.
Mr. Scott.
Yeah, Well, Jefferson got a little dinged up in that game. There was something with his hip. I mean, that's kind of, I have to put a circle on this. But I'm going to take the Vikings, and I'm going to take the over.
Okay.
Yeah, I might with that news that Anthony, I'm going to switch mine to an under.
Okay. All right. Sticking with you, Mr. Scott, and staying in your division. Well, not staying in your division because the Packers are actually on the road. They're playing the Titans. The Titans are giving the Packers 2 points, Mr. Scott, and the over-under is 38.
Well, that's another off the board game, in reality. But Tennessee hasn't really showed me. I'm going to take the Packers, and I'm going to take the under.
I'm going to take the Packers too, and I'm going to take the under. Dave.
Well, if Jordan Love was trying to come back to practice, I heard, but if he doesn't play, and I don't know that he practiced today, so I'm going to take Tennessee. I'm still hoping they bring in Mason Rudolph. And what was the spread?
Okay.
What was the spread?
38.
Yeah, but what was Tennessee getting?
Tennessee was getting 2. No,
Yes,
actually, the Packers are +2. Tennessee's giving the Packers 2.
Oh, so Tennessee's -2. Wow.
Yes.
Well, then I'm saying Tennessee's going to be. I mean, if Jordan Love plays, then I would have gone with Green Bay. I don't know what his status is. I'm going to take the under.
I think I can beat Tennessee if I was back there. I'm taking the Packers regardless. I don't care. I know. Levis hasn't shown me anything the last 2 weeks. Okay.
What about Don?
Don?
Yes,
Packers and Titans.
I'm going to take the Titans.
Whoa. Okay.
With under.
Okay.
Well, just because I just don't know if Jordan Love's going to play or not. So
Okay.
if I knew for sure, I'd go Packers. But since I'm going to go Tennessee.
All right. Don, the Bears are playing at the Colts. They're getting 1.5. And
go
the
Colts
over,
under. Colts and the under.
And the under.
Make that easy.
Okay. I'm gonna take the Colts and the under also. Don, Dave, the Bears, Colts, Bears getting 1.5, over under is 43.5.
Who's getting the 1.5?
The Bears.
Oh, I thought the Colts were giving points.
Yeah, that's what I said. The Bears are getting 1.5.
Oh, they're getting 1.5.
Yes.
Yeah, Anthony Richardson, he's not even completing half his passes. But Indianapolis is a pretty good team. I'm going to take Chicago. I'm going with Chicago, and I'm going to do the under.
Mr.
And
Scott.
that's 38.5, right?
No, that's 43.5.
Well, yeah, I'm going to take the under.
Mr. Scott, Bears, Colts.
Yeah, I'll take the Bears in the under too. I don't think there'll be that many points.
Okay. I got everybody on that game, right, Dave?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Scott, Carolina getting 5 points from the Raiders. Over under is 40.
There's some of these games have been so ridiculous where, so I'm going to take Carolina.
and the 5 points.
Yeah, I'm taking Carolina in the points, and then under.
Okay. I will take the Raiders and the under. Let's see. Dave?
I'm going to take the Raiders, but I'm going to go over.
Don?
I'm going to take the Raiders in the under.
Okay. Everybody, Dave?
Yes.
Okay, Don. The Dolphins, with no Tua, are getting 4.5 points from the Seahawks, and the over-under is 41.5.
Okay, Seahawks with the points under.
I'm going to take the Dolphins, and I'm going to go under. Dave?
No Tua. But Seattle's 2-0, but I just don't think that they're that good. I'm going to take Miami. I'm going to take the points. They might lose, but I'm going to take the points. And I think some points might be scored. I'll do the over against my better judgment.
Mr. Scott?
Yeah, it's off the real board, but I'll take Miami in the over.
Okay. Mr. Scott, the Rams at home, and they're giving 7 to the 49ers.
Yeah, they've got to be favored, or they got to be plus getting 7.
No, the Rams are +7.
Yes.
Yeah. The 49ers are playing the Rams. The Rams are a 7-point underdog, and the over/under is 44.5. Mr. Scott.
Boy, Stafford look so bad. I guess I still think the 49ers are a quality team. I'll take them, and I'll take the under.
I'm going to take the 49ers in the over. I think after what happened last week, they're going to put a beat down on the Rams. But what do you say, Don?
I'm gonna Niners with the over.
Dave?
I'm going with the Niners in the over.
Dave, the Lions are visiting the Cardinals. The Lions are a -3, and the over/under 51.5.
Wow. Well, first I'm going to go over. That's a lot of points, and I'm going to go under. And Detroit is -3.
Yep.
But they're at home.
No, the Cardinals are at home. They're on the
Cardinals
road.
are at home.
Yeah, Detroit's on the road.
I'm going to go with Detroit.
I think I'm going to go with the Cardinals on this one. I'm going to go the over. Don?
I go Detroit in the over.
Okay. Got everybody, Dave?
Anthony.
Anthony, okay.
Yeah, I'll take the Cardinals and the over.
Okay. Don, I'm going to start with you. The Cowboys are giving the Ravens 1. They're playing in Dallas. The over/under is 48.5, Don.
I think Dallas rebounds, so I'll take Dallas in under.
Mr. Scott.
Boy, I'll take Dallas, and I'll take the over.
Dave.
Baltimore's getting +1. I'm going to say that Tucker misses a field goal so that it's within its Dallas. And then what's the over under?
48 and a half.
48 and a half. I'll go over on that.
I'm going to go. Lord, I hate this. I don't like either team. I want to. Anyway, I'm going to take. I think the Redbirds have more problems than the Cowboys. I'm going to pick the Cowboys to bounce back at home, and I'm going to go the under for this one. Under. The next one, we got everybody there, right?
Yes.
Okay, start with you, Dave. Kansas City at Atlanta. The Chiefs are giving Atlanta 3.5. The over-under, Dave, is 46.5.
Kansas City, I think, lost Pacheco. He's hurt.
Yes, Pacheco is out. Pacheco's out 6 to 8 weeks.
But they got Mahomes. They got other weapons.
They got P. Ryan and they signed Hunt.
Yeah, and Atlanta, I think, is strong. They've shown that they're strong, but I'm going to take Kansas City, and I'm going to go under.
Okay, I'm going to take Kansas City and the under also. Don.
I go Kansas City with the under.
Mr. Scott.
Boy, I'm gonna take Kansas City, but I'm gonna go with the over.
Okay.
We all got to get some Kansas City barbecue there.
Yeah. I got some Kansas City barbecue sauce outside. I like it. I like that tang it's got. Mr. Scott, the Jaguars are visiting the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are giving them 5 points, and the over/under is 45.5. That's the Monday night game. We got 2 Monday night games. That's one Monday night game. That's the first one.
Oh. Well, I like Buffalo on the over.
Okay, Don, who you got?
I got Buffalo in the under.
Dave?
Yeah, Buffalo in the under.
I got Buffalo on the over. And the second Monday night game, I wonder how this is going to work out. One game's at 4:30, the other one's at 5:15. So they must be on competing stations.
Yeah, Jacksonville, Buffalo's on ESPN, and Commanders, Bengals is on ABC.
Oh, okay. Let's. Did we get everybody for the Bills and the Jags?
Yes.
Okay. The Commanders are getting 7.5. They're playing at Cincinnati, and the over/under is 47. Let's start with you, Don. Give us your over/unders, your predictions, and your final thoughts.
So I go Cincy with the under. Final thoughts. Good to be on the show tonight. So Longhorn football, we touched on that. Looks like that Quinn Ewers will be sitting out this game against University of Monroe, or whatever. Louisiana Monroe. So Arch will get his first official start. And his counterpart on the other side is a guy by the name of General Duty. He's out of Louisiana. General Booty. That's his name, General Booty. He played at 4 different high schools in his high school career, including Cornerstone here in San Antonio. And then he has played at, Tyler Junior College, Oklahoma. And now he's at Louisiana Monroe. So that will be a good matchup. Arch Manning versus General Booty. I'll keep you posted next week. General Booty.
Will you be at the game, Don?
Oh, yeah. I got season tickets.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, I'm at every game.
As long as they're not playing in Oklahoma, you're there, right?
Yes, sir. That's right.
Mr. Scott, your prediction and your final thoughts.
And so, what is it? Cincinnati?
It's Cincinnati giving the Commanders 7.5, and the over/under is 47.
Yeah, I'll take Cincinnati and the under.
Okay. No faith in Jalen Daniels, huh? What do you say there, Dave?
I'm going to take, I would love an upset, but I would love an upset, but it looks like Joe Burrow is working out his elbow okay. So he's just a better quarterback than Daniels right now. So I'm going to take Cincinnati, unfortunately. And but I'll take the under on this one.
Yeah, I'm going to follow you. I'm going to follow that cab there, Dave. Dave, give us your final thoughts for the evening.
Yeah, well, last Thursday night I had mentioned I was going to this Roberto Clemente Foundation dinner, so I made it up there. I got to meet Roberto's 3 sons, which was pretty cool. They're trying to carry on his legacy of being a, like Sue was talking about Sidney Crosby. Roberto Clemente was a guy that he literally gave his life trying to help people in need, after the earthquake in Managua. But also at the game was the grandson of Josh Gibson. And I just didn't realize he died so young. Josh Gibson was only 35 when he passed away. But I got to meet his grandson and the grandson of Danny Murtaugh. And so that was pretty cool. And his grandson talked about whenever Danny Murtaugh established the lineup, which was the first all African-American lineup. Well, not technically African-American, but all-black lineup. But what he said was with Danny Murtaugh is they were in a pennant race. And he wasn't doing it for publicity. He wasn't doing it so, this is a historic thing. He was trying to win a game. And those were the 9 or the 8 best players and the best pitcher available. And that's why Danny Murtaugh did what he did. He didn't care about color. He was into putting out the best baseball players, and he just didn't buy into it. But it was nice to listen to all of these people talk about trying to carry on the legacy of in the case of Gibson, the grandson, and Danny Murtaugh, the grandson, but also the sons of Roberto, trying to carry on the legacy of their fathers and grandfathers. That was cool. I'm going to be at the game in Pittsburgh. I was at the game, the home opener last year when they got punched in the mouth, and I just hope it doesn't happen a second time. But here's the thing: there's so much garbage going on around the world, all over the world, and here in the United States. And for me, I like to immerse myself in sports in order to get away from all the nonsense. And that's why I appreciate, all the teams and the Steelers and coming on with you guys. It's just a chance to talk sports, to swap some stuff and with Anthony, maybe exchange a couple blows, on those Vikings and the Steelers. But, remember, what happened when they played in the most important game, Anthony.
We should have won. To shut down Alan Pay, we should have won that. There was 16-6 or something. That was just a debacle. I'm still upset about that one as over all of the Super Bowls. But anyway.
Exactly, and that's what I enjoy, and I appreciate that from all of you guys.
Mr. Scott, take us home. Give us your final thoughts.
Well, I guess just this week I had a cousin was in town from Chicago. She had never been to my house, or somebody told her to call me, and I took her to dinner, and but she was in for a conference. She's in Atlanta now, even though she grew up in Chicago. And they had a tour bus that took him out to Paisley Park, Prince's Palace, the Mall of America, and George Floyd Square. And I'm like, that's what we've become now, and they were just so excited the tour bus took them through there. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't know, but it's like what Dave's saying when he talked about the We Are Family team. How I used to know all the players. I mean, Pittsburgh with Don Clendenin, Dave Cash,
oh yeah,
Manny Sanguian, Al Oliver, Roberto Clemente, Willie Stargell, Doc Ellis. I mean, I remember all of those things. It just takes you away from some of these things.
Rod Carew over in Minnesota.
Well, Rod, one of the best hitters I've ever seen. I mean, there was a time when I thought he would get a hit every time.
Yep.
Just all the great baseball, the Harmon Killebrews, Big Bobby Allison, who was a great fullback at Kansas. Great All-American fullback at Kansas, and ended up playing left field for the Twins. He came with Washington when the Senators came in 1960. Senators came. Calvin Griffin just moved the team up here. He didn't want to do it. He said, it's too cold up here. Black people don't go to games. And it turned out to be one of the greatest things here, the Minnesota Twins, the great players that he brought from Cuba. Camilo Pascual, the greatest curveball I've ever seen. Zoilo Versalles, MVP of that 65 World Series where Don Drysdale and Sandy Koufax just shut us down. Mudcat Grant hit a home run and pitched this complete game. So those kind of things, is what, I try to remember and dwell on those things. And with the history that we do about the Twin Cities and the days when Willie Mays played up here at the Minneapolis Millers and Cappy Campanera played at the St. Paul Saints, and Carl Yastrzemski was on the St. Paul. I mean, all these great, Ted Williams played for the Minneapolis Millers. Those things, they mean something to me. And by spreading this to the new people, I think they begin to see at least how I feel about it. So that's my final thought.
Hey guys, well, hey, as usual, man, enjoyed talking with everybody. Glad we could get together and talk some sports. And I will see you all, God willing, next week.
Yeah,
have a great weekend.
No buyout. No buyout on the bet, James. There will be no buyout. We've upped it.
Good night, guys.
And, you can't just say, "Oh, well, I'll just buy out." No buyouts.
You've doubled up now.
Yeah. All right, guys. I'll see you next week, and I'll still be talking trash. As you
Take care.
See. All right. Have a good weekend, everyone. Always enjoy Sue's Corner, though, Dave. She always brings something that I've never heard about before. It's like,
she's actually more into sports than I am. I mean, for me, as soon as the Pittsburgh team is out, that season's over. But she follows right along, and she all sports. So
she's as amazing as Bill. I mean, she comes up with some things that that we don't usually talk about on the Sportz Krib. So, big shout out to Sue.
I'll let her know. Thank you.
All right. I'll see you guys next week.